I mean, the last one, I just really ended up talking a load of crap, really.
Now, are you airing this on your YouTube channel too?
Yeah, it's going on in my YouTube channel, definitely.
Okay, let me see if I can get a couple of my guys in.
By speaking to you, can sort of get your side going in terms of the veterans and all that. You know, I'm up for that. You know.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
we could kind of lead into whatever, you know.
Yeah. So, just talk about how you got into beekeeping, from going from military to beekeeping. I mean, how did you get there?
I got it in an email, and I've been wanting to keep bees for quite a while, Dave.
Yeah.
I was like, that would be fun. My stepdad is doing it now again, and I got the email. I was laying in bed one night, and I get a lot of emails through the VA about mental health programs, things like that. And they said, oh, well, here's a new program. Yeah. It's for veterans who are suffering from PTSD, anxiety, depression, family reintegration. That was the big one they pushed, is family reintegration. Yeah. Because say you got veterans coming home from downrange who've been downrange, you know, year and a half. Yeah. Hey, what's a good way to get the family involved? Hey, here's a program. Yeah. It's for veterans and their families, not just veterans, but their families.
So did they get a lot of uptake from the family side of things? So did they get a lot of involvement from families with the veterans?
Oh, yeah, that's what I found out. Our instructor through the course, it's called Heroes to Hives. That's the name of the course. And it's free. It is totally donor sponsored. Mm-hmm. People donate, and that's how the course is sponsored. And it is college educated. It is a college class. Yeah. It's through Michigan State University, and it is taught by veterans. Yeah. So they had a huge response the first year. 10,000 plus people signed up for that first set of courses. Yeah. And within that first set of courses, they had to divide those two courses up. So they split those 10,000 up into 5,000. Yeah. Then they split those 5,000 up into 2,500 person A and B courses. Yeah. Then they had to put the 5,000 off until the next year. Yeah. But from what I've been paying attention, is the course is doing nothing but gaining more people.
Yeah, it's bound to. I mean, it's picked up popularity here as well. You know, being more aware of what's going on in the ecology side of things. You know what I mean? I suppose it is a bit of a career change, isn't it? And you go from doing what you do to what you do now. I mean, it seems a polar opposite, but you know, it sorts your head out. You know what I mean? In terms of that's your focus. You know what I mean? That keeps your brain occupied. I mean, that's how I work it.
That's that's the approach. The class is mental health based too, Dave. That's the thing. The class is mental health based, and they teach it from a mental health standpoint. Like, hey, you know, when you go out to your bees, hey, don't go out there upset, because you know what? Your bees are going to know about 50 feet before you even walk into your yard.
Yeah, true.
And he's like, they say you go out there with that aggression, you know what? Your bees are going to know, and you're not going to have a good experience.
No, you won't. I mean, we know that already. Don't we? You start running around the place and flailing. You know, you do get stung.
Yeah, the bees are going to pick up on your mood.
I've not got any stings yet, but my boy's got plenty of stings. You know, but I've been away for a couple of months, so you know I've been relying on him to do all the business for me, and he's done a great job, mate. Isn't he? So
and the same thing. You're ex-military, right?
Yeah.
Correct. So you got. Yeah, so you got your son involved. That's a good way to keep your family involved. You know, now your son can pass that on down. You know, and it's a family activity also. It's a good way to keep your family involved. It's good for pollination. It's good for the earth. I'm not a tree hugger, but I'm definitely aware of what's going on with the environment. My biggest thing I noticed recently, Dave, was that monarch butterflies were put on the endangered species list.
Yeah, so I believe, I've seen that as well.
And that was just, that's a shock, you know, because people often forget that, hey, butterflies are pollinators too.
Yeah, sure.
Not just bees.
So the course that the Veterans Association offers you, is it in different areas of the state? So it's all over the states, or is it in one?
All over the world. If you got people that are deployed, they can take it while they're downrange. It is a completely free course. Yeah. All over the world. You could be in Germany, you could be Colonies, you know. You don't have to be stateside. It's all online.
It's kind of strange for us, because that's me being former military. We never had any access to any of that stuff. I mean, I'm an older generation when it comes to that. You know, I joined.
But somebody like you being older and having that experience now, you could pass that down. Maybe you could start putting together an organization with your Royal Marine buddies saying, hey, we got a younger group coming back from Iraq. Hey, let's start pushing this kind of a beekeeping program to help with their mental health, because that's exactly what the VA did.
Yeah.
And there was a study that actually shows veterans make better beekeepers.
Well, I can imagine that. That don't surprise me one bit. You know what I mean?
No.
It's to do with like the very sort of thorough nature that military have got, where you have to see it to the end, right? What if actions on and all that. I know it sounds a bit,
No,
but that's,
I'm with you.
Yeah, but they certainly do throw your sixes. I mean, we've experienced that today. We've been into ours today because we did a split on ours, and I was worried about the split. So we did the split, requeened, and we got in there this afternoon. We got rained off, but we found there's supersedure cells there, and I was horrified because it's like late in August. We're now thinking about treatments, getting them bedded down for the winter. So we were doing that, and then we've come across this. So it's because we were rained off. We were going to do it tomorrow, but it's a worrying thing. I thought my split's going to fail within us doing it within a couple of months. But hey ho, it's part of that learning process.
It's quite funny as well. It's got some historical accuracy. Were you saying that military make good beekeepers? There's actually history with people thinking soldiers made good farmers back in the day as well. So it's quite similar in a way.
It really is, because we think for the greater good. We always will. That's the way we're taught, is like, hey, when you're in the military, you don't think about yourself. You think about the unit. You think about you're thinking about the 5-10 guys next to you, because in the end, when you're in war, you don't go to combat for the country. You go to combat for the guy next to you. You're now fighting for the guy's life next to you, and just as the guy next to you, he'll do the same for you. As we're gonna do. We're gonna continue to fight for the good.
Yeah. So that'd be great if you can you have to keep us updated on that. When you start getting things together, it's quite interesting because I've thought about that sort of thing. I've got a thing where I'm looking at. I'm calling it over the horizon, which relates to over horizon operations and all that sort of stuff. And I'm thinking about something on the similar lines, not beekeeping necessarily, but actually talking to homeless vets.
Okay.
We've got, and there's a lot here, more than you think, actually.
Same here in America, man. That's why I want to get the community involved, because I think in a sense too, like maybe starting up a beekeeping operation towards fully commercial, fully ran by veterans. And then they in turn, hey, you got homeless vets. Hey, let's bring those guys in off the street, give them a job, and let's start getting them, let's actually start getting them back on their hit, getting them rehabilitated, getting them mental health, steady job, place to live. Really look out for them.
Yeah. So with that's quite a big operation. You're going to keep it quite small, the operation, or are you going to spread it? I mean, what's the plan?
I would like to stay kind of local, because where I live it's real rural in the country. And this is just how I would think I would like to do it. This is just me. Have a central yard where all the beekeepers keep all their gear, somewhere where it's monitored by, say, the ag police. That way there's no theft, things like that. Somewhere where we can feel our gear is protected. Because we were just talking a bit ago that people deal with theft here in Texas of beekeeping equipment, and it is a felony. If you get caught with stolen beekeeping equipment, you're going to go to jail. Guarantee it. And it's a real thing, guys. It really is. Think of how much money you drop in your beekeeping gear. Say you got a yard full of 30 boxes. Okay, and that's just count the gear, right? Think of the time. Years.
So do you have a local association? Because we have an insurance system. You get public liability insurance, and there's a certain amount in there against theft as well, I think. I don't know if you get anything like that, do you?
Yeah, I think with something like that, you would definitely want to get like your ag exemption, because out here where I live, if you have 5 acres or more and you have bees, you start getting really big agriculture tax exemptions. You could save probably 20, 30 grand a year in taxes. Absolutely. You get
the same here. I mean, same here, beekeeping 0%, tax and all that sort of stuff.
Huge here. My mentor told me, he's like, I got some properties out here that I manage bees on. He's like, those people are getting about $40,000 a year off on taxes just because their bees are there. Because you can double up on, in this county, you can double up on your pollination exemption and your ag exemption. You can stack the 2 exemptions from what I understand.
Yeah.
I'll have to double check with the appraisal district, but when you do that, because bees also count as wildlife and as pollination.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a double-edged sword, but you get a huge write-off here.
Yeah, it's true enough. I suppose, a colony can go back into the wild, no issues at all. They'll just
absolutely
go, they'll swarm and disappear if you're not quick enough. But yeah, it's cool. So I suppose you're going to source funding. Is that going to be funded by the military, or is it going to be generated from people who enroll, or what you're trying to do?
That's what I think I would probably do. Get some of the local community here, because where I live, it's real big on veterans. I have disabled veteran tags on my car. Everywhere you see around here, it's 90% veteran. Yeah. And they're really big about supporting the veteran community here. I'm sure if I started putting flyers up like, hey, we have a veterans only beekeeping association we're trying to start. Is there any donors, because we have lumber yards out here, coffee shops, restaurants, I'm sure I could just start dropping flyers and, hey, would you guys be willing to maybe support this cause, make a small donation to this to help these veterans? We want to start this organization, maybe some of it come out of my own pocket, who knows? It's still very early. I'm on my first year and I don't even have bees yet because of our resources are so bad here. This year for me would be very expensive to start beekeeping. I would be feeding a lot of sugar and a lot of pollen patties.
Yeah, sure.
Guaranteed.
I can understand. Yeah, it can get expensive for sure. I mean, we're on a regime of 1-to-1 feeding at the moment because we're obviously coming up to the winter side of things. We're judging it, and we're watching for backfilling because there is some backfilling going on now. So we have to stop feeding them. But again, it's all for me. I'm not an expert, as I said. I've said it many, many times, and I'll say it again now. I'm finding my way through, the same as everybody else.
Yeah. And we always talk about how we talk about beekeeping is always it's going to be local.
Of course.
Your weather isn't the same as here in South Texas.
Well, we've had unseasonable, really good weather for Scotland. Have you ever seen any films with Scotland, anything like that? It's always pissing the rain. Excuse my language, but it is. And we've had an exception this year. Certainly from June, July time. Temperatures are 30 odd degrees, and we don't get that up here.
That's I think that's about 80 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah, about 80 degrees. I mean, for Scotland, that's unusual. That's it's something we don't experience. And now we're
that would be hot for you guys, right?
Right.
30
degrees.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
Okay.
Well, it's like they say, I'm not a Scot. I mean, but my wife's a Scot, but they always say they're just different shades of blue.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And our thing this year is we had a really short bloom because of the heat. We had, I forget the solid amount of days of 100-degree days we had. It was like 30 something days of 100-degree days.
That's just unreal.
It's ridiculous.
I mean, the pollen and all the nectar's going to dry up without rain, definitely. I mean, ours stopped after that prolonged period of high temperatures. It just stopped the flow, and it was recognizable. It was quite profound, because they were almost listless. So we sort of said, right, we need to start feeding a little bit to stimulate, because the hive didn't have any brood in it.
That was a scary week.
We went into the hive at work and shit, there's no brood, so it was a good idea because the treatments are now due. I mean, we're using Amatraz, Apivar strips we're using. And certainly on the first initial 24 hours, we had a huge dump, didn't we? There's a huge drop of Varroa.
Mites. Wow.
Which was surprising for us. I knew we had Varroa, but it's like anything. You don't know what levels because it wasn't obvious because they're all ferretic and tucked up underneath the plates underneath, and then boom. As soon as we put those strips in, there was a big drop. So they were in there.
I could imagine. Those Varroa probably get up under those plates real nice and tight, I would think too. Like they're in there. They're dug in there.
Yeah, really, really bad. So they are canny creatures, as I've said. They're real tricky to deal with. And because I got involved in the treatment-free sort of thing discussion, and that was a wrong move, man. That was a wrong move. It really was.
Yes, I was. I don't know where I really stand on that, man. I'm kind of crossed about the whole treatment-free thing. I definitely think at some point it requires human intervention. Because bees are. I mean, if we're going to raise them as livestock, we very well have to treat them as such. Especially when they're producing a table commodity. that is worth its weight in gold, you know, and then people are paying for raw right out of the box. Basically, what people want, I found out here, if they want the raw unfiltered honey. Raw, unadulterated, unfiltered, straight out of the out of the slinger honey. They don't want it going through heaters or anything. Nope.
No. I mean, you know, we get the same here. We got a small amount of honey produced this year, which surprised me because I wasn't expecting it. I'll be honest with you. But we've had a few frames of, you know, I've left the bees some and I've kept some, but it's not a massive crop. But you know, at least it's something. You know, and they were really going great guns. Well, we run with a Buckfast. You know, they're quite, as you know, they're very quite a common species that people certainly in the UK use. But I know you guys are slightly different. You use like the Russians, Caucasian, and all them lot.
I'm not sure what we have some species here in Texas. There's the Texas 5000 and the Golden Cordovas, I think is what they are. And there's a breed that I want the hot breed. I want the hot species, the one that's a little more hyper aggressive, just because they've, from what I understand, they're better honey producers. And personally, I want bees to be somewhat aggressive around the hive because I don't want anybody in my bee yard. You know, if somebody's going to get in my bee yard, they're going to end up getting stung really bad. You know,
so you really what you're after is Africanized bees then.
Well, we're in Africanized zone. 100%.
Yeah, sure.
There's Africanized here. And my mentor told me, he's like, you get Africanized in your box fan. He's like, you're going to know it. He said, you'll know. And he's like, he said, you could break an Africanized colony, but he's like, it takes a lot of work, man. He's like, it's a lot of work to break them down. He's like, you got to probably stretch them in between 8 or 10 boxes and then break queen.
Yeah. They're more prone to swarming.
That's exactly what he said. And he said, when they swarm.
When you start swarming, you know, that can be a little bit sort of, you know, losing a bunch of bees at the beginning. But, you know, if you're happy to do that, as I said to anybody if they want not to intervene and let bees swarm, you know, some folk do that, you know, I can't criticize that. But it's not nice, you know. Yeah.
And I have neighbors now. Like when I moved in, I didn't have neighbors. And where I put my bee yard, well, they built their dog pen about 50 feet from my bee yard. Right. Now it's like, okay, now I have to rethink where I'm going to set my bee yard at because, and they saw that I had my bee gear set out, you know, I'm like, come on guys, like work with me here. Like I'll sling the honey with you, but dude, like it just kind of created an issue, you know? And that's what I have to be worried about my neighbor's pets.
Yeah, of course.
And they have dogs that are black and white. And
you know, I get the same here. At one particular point, the temperament changed completely. And it was a time when they were actually most of their honey drawn out and it was all capped, and they got uber aggressive. Do you know what I mean? And so we were having like people were getting stung when they were coming into my house, which was not.
They're all
ideal.
hungry, huh?
Do you know what I mean? So my wife got stung. You know, she got stung in the eyelid, I think it was. You got stung twice.
Well, I've had my fair share of things like
I haven't got any yet. You know, I must be like that. I must be. It's a good karma around bees. It must be.
Yeah, I don't even have bees, and I was just feeding them just to kind of see where they were coming from and what direction because I was really trying to swarm trap. I got all my gear sitting in my yard. I got swarm trap set, but there's no swarms this year. Like I said, I'll be patient with it. I'm in no rush. Really not. I got some removals I can go do and probably get several swarms. You know,
the thing is, you get, but you know, because your climate's a lot better, so you're over wintering issues don't become an issue so much for you guys. Because what's it down there in the winter normally? What's the average temperature?
Probably 55 to 60.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it's pretty mild weather. You know, when it gets, we had snowmageddon the last couple of years where it got really cold. Yeah, we got snowed in here in Texas. That was pretty like a rare incident. But for the most part, you know, we might get some freezing days, but for the most part, you know, it's not horrible. And I have several of my clients that I have for my business because I'm self-employed, and I have my clients, hey, I have bees. Do you want them? I'm like, yeah, but it's too hot. No, and I want to go do the removals for them, but my mentor said, wait till it's cool. Wait till the bees kind of slow down for the winter. Then go do it. He's like, it's too hot. There's no resources. And he's all, you're going to be down there in 107 degrees in a bee suit. And he's like, once you start, you can't stop.
Yeah.
So he's like,
so you're going to run So you're going to run Langstroth, something like that, yeah?
Yeah, I'm some standard Langstroth.
Langstroth, yeah.
I got a couple nukes out there as swarm traps, I said, I'm patient. I'm just trying everything. If they move in, there's a bunch of free boxes out there.
I've seen you make up the swarm traps. So they were successful or not? Did you get a catch?
I haven't caught any yet. They were definitely interested in them. But again, the resource level here in Texas, in South Texas, like I said, we had a bloom, Dave, and it was maybe 3 weeks. Maybe. Yeah. And that was it.
So what was that? What was bloom? What have you got in your area that's
we got like prairie flowers, we got thistle, a lot of everything. Indian fire blankets. We have a real diverse selection of wildflowers here in Texas. But one thing I've noticed where I live, right, you got all these really nice wildflowers along the side of the road. Then you look over these fences, these huge ranches that are a few thousand acres. Guess what's there? Nothing.
Nothing at all.
It's all overgrazed.
Is it?
Huge.
Yeah.
Next time I'm out, I'll shoot some videos. That way, and I'll show everybody the comparison. Like, hey, people wonder why our bee population is declining. Well, hey, look at these huge ranches right here.
Yeah.
They do exotic hunting leases, right? People come out, pay $30,000 to, off some kind of exotic buck from Africa. There's no pollen, no flowers, but you hop the roadside in Texas because of Lady Bird Johnson, First Lady. She put into law that all Texas roadsides have to have wildflowers on them by law. Yeah. It's a law in Texas, basically.
Yeah, we have the similar thing where the farmers and land leave sort of like corridors of unfettered type foliage. You know what I mean, like hedgerows and things like that.
Yeah,
which produce all your bramble and all the stuff that the bees love,
Yeah.
One of the things, real worries for us when we first, certainly in my scenario here, we've got them in our back garden. We're in quite an urban area. So we were quite concerned about, is there going to be enough forage? I mean, that was a big thing for us. And they absolutely knocked it out of the park. I mean, what they collected from around here, because we have a lot of people that, I don't know if you're familiar with the term allotments, where they, allotments. Where they, they do all their fruit, veg, and all that sort of stuff. Most of the forage came from those areas. They were disappearing up the road. It's only literally less than half a mile.
And bees will forage. Bees will forage far.
Yeah, they do. They do. So drawing a circle, what you think is the forage range. For them, they're within half a mile. For their forage, because there's trees, shrubs, everything here. People with gardens, and they absolutely packed out the hive with loads of nectar and all sorts of pollen. I've never seen some of it before. I had to look it up.
We
were getting a lot of black pollen.
Yeah, the black pollen.
Which
that's
is unusual.
awesome.
Yeah, and we were looking and saying, well, where's this coming from? And there was an article I did read. It was a bit of a red herring. It will send you off on a tangent. Is they were talking about that sometimes bees forage coffee grounds, the ones that people ditch. Seriously, there was an article about that.
I've heard sawdust. I've heard sawdust, peanut shells, things like that. They'll forage anything to pack, basically. Yeah. It's like that predetermined genealogy of them to forage and work and to just work.
They are amazing. They have just a lot of curveballs that left us completely stumped.
And you brought up a good point there too, Dave. I think is the allotments how everybody grows gardens around where you live. Yeah, I think that's an important conversation to have with a lot of people in all communities, really, because pollination. If we lose our bees, man, we're screwed.
Oh yeah,
we're all screwed. That's our pollination source. I was telling friends and family about it. If we lose bees, we're going to be self-pollinating our own food, and a bag of oranges is no longer going to be $3. It's going to be $25.
Yeah. Well, the price of honey's rocketed. At one point in the UK, certainly it was about, for a pound jar, 454 grams was about £6. It's now 12 quid.
Wow. And 12 quid's what, like $25?
It'd be about that, I would imagine.
That's about what it's here. Yeah, about here. A jar, like a standard mason jar, the quart. Yeah. $25 I could sell it for. Raw, probably more actually out here. If I souped it up and did like the honeycomb in the jar, I could probably sell it off for $35 a jar, and people will pay it. They see that raw honey in the jar, they're like, hey, sold.
I don't suppose you got any problems with regulation as far as people. Well, the government, our government, certainly looks at it and says that honey has to be below 18% water content, which is then regarded as honey. If anything over that, they don't regard it as that. It's like when you name things. When you put things in jars, they look at it in a weird way. And I've read the regulations for Scotland anyway, and it's really bizarre. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no.
You have to watch what you call it. You can't call it pure honey or this, that, and the other, and weird stuff like that, So
here in Texas where I live, because again, it's an agricultural state, really. Yeah. Texas it's land and cattle, man. That's what people did when they came here. It was land, cattle, agriculture. That was it. That was the way of life. Is you came out here, you worked the land, you grew your own food, own cattle. That was it. So Texas, as a non-commercial beekeeper, okay, I can harvest and sell up to 2,500 pounds of honey without reporting it to, say, the USDA or the government or anything like that. If I stay within that threshold, okay. What I also don't have to do is when I sling the honey, I have to do it in like a food safe area, which I've already found some places in town. One that does the prepared meals for the old folks, like the Meals on Wheels. So I'm going to talk to that guy when the time comes to say, hey, can I go ahead and sling the honey in your kitchen? I'll whack the honey with you, or I'll pay you an hourly fee, whatever the case is, but I'm sure he'd probably like, hey, give me some of the honey. That's probably what I would think. So that's kind of the route I'm going with that. So there's steps I've also looked into getting the bee yard certified by the state of Texas, as to have a certified specialist from Texas A&M, from the actual apiary school, come down, look at the bee yard, kind of go over my bee yard with me. They'll kind of quiz me there in the bee yard, and they'll certify the bee yard saying, hey, this guy's got a healthy bee yard. It's good to go. It's pest free, disease free. The bees are healthy. He knows what he's talking about, and they'll certify the yard, and then they'll go by and certify the boxes.
We have a similar system, but it's more of a voluntary registration of apiaries. So we register. And they'll, you then become part of the inspection regime at some stage. If they come and look at you, they send you all sorts of, I can say heads up, because I think recently we had an AFB outbreak on the borders.
Oh no.
Which is, exactly. It's quite a nasty, it's getting rid of hive stuff. You know what I mean? That's burning things, which is, we're approximately 120 odd miles from there. But, we certainly there was a Varroa outbreak as well on the East Coast, but that was last year.
What was the one that just, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the one you're thinking about, Varroa, is the one in Australia.
That one was bad from what I heard.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's the first time they've actually come across Varroa. So they've now got it on their continent. So it's only in, I think it was New South Wales, somewhere like that. I think I might be wrong. Don't quote me on that, but
it's there for good now. It's not going away. And when I heard Varroa outbreak in Australia, I was like, oh shit, that's bad, because Australia has some of the strictest import laws in the world. They really do, because of their their environment, because of their biodiversity. They don't want anything.
Varroa is a game changer.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, for them.
And that sort of brings me back to that the treatment-free side of things. When I was researching that, and I spoke to a prominent guy. I'm not going to mention him on here, but he was very aggressive and defensive, because all I was doing was seeking information and saying, well, what results are you getting? Are you seeing anything different to your stock? You know what I mean? Are they surviving without treatment, without any intervention whatsoever? But what really confused me was when the term, what was it they termed it as? I'll think of it in a minute, but it's something like treatment free but not stupid.
Yeah, I think it was something
was the statement. Okay. And I kind of looked at that and I thought, okay, well, what does that mean? Are you going to treat? Are you not going to treat? And so it became a little bit sort of, I didn't understand it. My brain wasn't computing, and I was asking the questions, and all I got was, why do you want to know this, and all that sort of stuff. And I found that strange. That's someone trying to suss out what's going on.
Yeah. So what I'm learning from my mentor, again, this is my first year. I don't even have bees yet, guys. So I'm still learning. I watch all the videos still. I'm learning on the back channel while I'm working my business and doing some other things around the property. But it's really going to be all up to the beekeeper at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You know, if he sees his hive is healthy and it doesn't need treatment, what do they say? If it's not messed up, don't mess with it.
Yeah.
Right?
So I agree. I mean, what is one of your biggest worries you think you might have when you start getting into it big time?
I want to be able to grow with my bees, not have my bees outgrow me. That's where I think I'm kind of concerned. Yeah. You know, I want to be ready for them. I have the gear out, but the way they grow and how fast they grow, I need to build my BR before anything, you know, or maybe even move it because of where my neighbors put their dog pen. You know,
you know, it's one of those things you can't account for, isn't it? You know, people change. You know, it's not, as we stay here, it's no stranger than folk. You know what I mean?
And I'm not going to be mean to my neighbors. They're nice people.
No.
Yeah, I was out in the yard the other day. He like brings me a plate of food and a beer. He's like, "Hey man, here's some food." You know, so it's like,
I wish we had neighbors like that, man.
My neighbors are awesome, and I was like, "Dude, I just ate," and they're Hispanic. Like the guy's a contractor, you know, real nice people. Yeah. And him and his brothers were out there barbecuing, and I was like, "Man, I just ate." He's all, "No, come get a plate." I was all, "Dude, I just ate." He's all, "Take some food home to you and save it for later." I was like, "All right, I'll take some food." I think another big problem is actually theft too. I think I worry about that here. I really do.
About what?
Theft.
Theft.
Yeah, I think I'm. Yeah.
Apart from you putting watchtowers up around your apiary, you know what I mean? It's one of those things.
Yeah, and I got good neighbors for the most part, but I got some questionables, you know. And my bee yard is right where everybody can see it. And again, I live in agriculture county. I see beehives set up all over the place here.
Yeah.
You know, I'm convinced I was feeding other people's bees this last summer. I know I was. Yeah. I know I was for sure.
So with that in mind, you know, what sort of timeline you're going for when you're going to get your first lot in the hive? I mean, you now got some good temperatures coming in. Is that when you're going to start thinking about it? Or?
I'm thinking I might go into the winter with mine. You know, when the bees are kind of feed them up, brood them up for the winter, and start when it's nice and cool. Yeah. You know, that's the only way I could see going about it, because this summer was just vicious. It really was. It was not a good summer to keep bees here in Texas. It was so dry. There was zero resources. You know, and my mentor says, he's all, "Dude, the bees are pissed right now, dude." He's like, "There's no resources." He's like, "You don't want to play with bees when there's no food." He's like, because they're hyper aggressive at that point. He's like, "There's no food. You know, some places there's huge droughts here in Texas. We just got really nice rain. So that's going to help, you know." And I noticed some flowers popped out overnight just because of the rain. Yeah,
exactly. You know, so it's not all done and dusted, but you know, certainly for us, we're always limited by the temperate climate we get here. You know, we only get a certain amount of time to do certain things. And when the temperature changes or it extends to the right, something like that, you know, it's when bees throw sixes. I found they're doing like the one with the split today, you know, and I'm looking at it and I'm fretting as usual, like, where's the queen? Can't find her. They supersede yourselves. And I thought, if she supersedes now, we're screwed, because she won't be mated. You know, there are some drones still
for winter,
about in life, believe it or not. We've still got a good spattering of drones, you know, which is unusual, but you know, they get a bad retirement plan, don't they? You know, at the end of the season,
they get kicked out of the club.
Yeah, their retirement plan sucks, like, you know. So,
as I say, they get kicked out of the all-girls club.
So other stuff that we found unusual, well, certainly when we installed on May 26th, we installed them, and we did an initial 1-to-1 sugar syrup feeding to get them off the ground, and they just took off. You know, they seem to adapt well to our climate.
See, here's a trick that I was hearing from somebody over here stateside. Now, if you want to get your bees brooded up real strong, feed them goat's milk. Powdered goat's milk. If you can get powdered from a beekeeper, use powdered goat's milk. If you look at the back of a powdered goat's milk package, I went and bought some. Yeah, somebody was telling me, like, "No, dude. Oh, it's my hillbilly beekeeper."
Oh yeah, I know the chap.
It was Hillbilly. Yeah. Hillbilly, he's all, "Use powdered goat's milk, dude. That's what he uses in his pollen patties, man. Is powdered
Yes.
goat's milk instead of the pollen.
Well, he's a favorite of the peppermints as well.
That guy's a good man. That guy's got a good heart. He's good people, and it seemed like the whole peppermint thing. It worked out. You know, it really did for some people. Like some people went and threw peppermints in their hive. Like I haven't seen any beetles. You know.
But yeah, that's one thing we don't get here is small hive beetle. You know, it's a matter of time. But we don't get it initially.
Yeah, see, and that's where I'm in Texas, and what I did for my yard was I put actual weed barrier down first.
Yeah.
So I put a heavy duty weed barrier, and then I put cedar mulch, like real heavy duty cedar mulch, because I know some other like insects don't like cedar mulch. It's real abrasive to them, so they won't cross it.
Yeah.
So I've been, I'm trying to get my bee yard set up properly so I can, even maybe prevent some of those pests that I know we're going to have. Small hive beetles being one of them, because I'm hoping that weed barrier is going to break that cycle from the dirt for the larva to, go down and reproduce. So that was one step I took.
Pests. We don't get many pests. I mean, we've only had ants, really. We just get.
Yeah, you're so lucky.
Yeah,
we are lucky.
I got scorpions, snakes, lizards. We got it all here, man. I was picking up something in my yard the other day, lifted over, and there's a scorpion right next to my finger. So it's like we got all kinds of little creepy crawlers out here, man. So
a quick hello to some people who've come in. You got Robert Ball. He looks like a former Marine. So hi, Robert. How you doing? And then we've got
Robert Ball. Did you take the Heroes to Hives class, bud? If he's still in here, I hope he's still in here.
You could be. And then we've got Jody from Graham's Bees. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our random conversation. But it's a good one.
Yeah, so definitely Heroes to Hives. If anybody's interested, it's free. Definitely should do it. And I'm all about like what you're talking about, maybe push an initiative over there across the pond where you're at. Because why not? The more beekeepers, the better pollination you're going to have, the more food you're going to have, the better your crops, the better the ecosystem.
Yeah. I could get a little bit of resistance from the establishment of certainly overall, because they can be a little bit fuddy-duddy, as we call it, a little bit, very traditional. Well, I've got no problems with traditional stuff. I really haven't, that's where it came from. But I'm also like to try different things, if they say, well, okay, we haven't done that, let's do this, which is what we're doing at the moment, just stumbling our way through. You can read as much as you like, but at the end of the day,
I thought the program was great because they don't teach you everything. There's no way. They teach you the very basic foundation, which is what you need to start building up. You don't just go into something running. I knew very little about beekeeping until I took that class. It's like, oh yeah, I need to really think this out here. Have a plan. I think that's the biggest thing. Have a plan, have a good place for a yard, and have a good mentor.
Yeah.
The class was awesome.
That's one thing I haven't got as a mentor, but I've been sort of, as I say, going through it. And one site that I use quite a lot, certainly UK side, you've probably seen him, is Lawrence Edwards from Black Mountain Honey.
I like Black. Yeah, I like Lawrence. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a top bloke. I got my bees from him. I traveled down to North Wales to collect my bees from him.
Very cool.
And a subsequent queen after that.
How are his bees?
Yeah.
Our bees are good.
Yeah, are they?
No, how are Black Mountain's bees? You said you picked up bees from him, yeah?
Yeah, from Black Mountain Honey in North Wales, over in UK here. Yeah.
Okay, how are his bees pretty hardy? How are they holding up?
Well, they're holding up great because North Wales is the same climate pretty much as us on the northeast of Scotland. So I sort of bear that in mind when I actually chose. I was going to get some local ones, but unfortunately that fell through because I couldn't get in touch with the guy. He might have been busy, things happen. But it fell through, so I had to come up with a plan B, which was to go all the way down to North Wales, which is about a 400-mile trip, which is no problem because I know they're good stock, good temperament. And I've had no issues with them, apart from them throwing sixes and saying, well, keep on your toes, big fella. You know what I mean? We're just going to do something different.
Yeah. I would imagine that drive is somewhat probably pretty nice too from where you live down to.
Yeah, it's okay. It's all right. Okay. A lot of it's motorways, we call it, M6 and all the way down. I mean, it's pleasant enough.
Okay.
Yeah. but we got a good
Okay.
strain, and I'm happy with the way things are going.
Okay.
So for us, we're under the winter prep sort of stuff now.
Sort of. That's kind of what everybody's doing here. They're starting to gear down for winter.
Yeah.
And
to wind it down a wee bit. Like I said, we're just worried about the queen in the split.
The queen's been the main issue, I'd say, for both. Well, the main hive. She likes buggering off and not appearing, because I'd say this has been about 2-3 weeks now we haven't seen the queen, so it's been quite worrying. I'm like, oh no, this isn't good. And then she'll appear somewhere. So it's.
I mean, you get the signs, you get the eggs, you get the larva, you get the brood, but you always want to get eyes on, don't you? And when you don't get eyes on, you're like that. Oh, shit,
Yeah. I've always been told, hey, if you see fresh eggs, she's there.
Yeah.
That's the thing, and it's like, I know it's hard to trust if you can't see her, but from what I've learned from my mentor, like, hey, that queen can take off anytime she wants. She doesn't got to stay there. She'll take off anytime she wants.
Yeah, and the bees, all they've got to do is say, right, she's no good. We'll supersede her, and there's nothing you can do. It'll happen. I'm hoping that's not the case here, because it's too late in the season to get her mated. So I could potentially lose a nuke, which tomorrow I'm going back into it. And I've got to track her down, just peace of mind,
That's where you would lose their brood cycle, is if you had one mated too late in the season.
Yeah.
All the drones would already be kicked out.
That's right.
So you got to make sure she's mated before all the drones are kicked out of the colony.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've got some in both sides. But, it's just our luck, really. If it happens, it happens. I just have to put it down to experience and say, right, okay, we'll start again.
It really is like you're gambling or playing some craps in Vegas. You're like, shoot craps. You never, it's like you never really know what's going to happen.
Well, that's where the art of it comes in. For the old boys that can tell you and say, oh, no, fella, that's not the way you do it. Just don't worry about that. Do this, do that. And you kind of, you've got to go with that, haven't you?
Yeah.
Being the limited experience and stuff. But,
I have a great mentor. He's been doing it for 40 plus years, and his whole family's been beekeeping for, I don't know. It's generational for his family. It's like my great uncle kept bees, and pretty much everybody in my whole line. It's like when my great uncle died, he's like, I had to go to the nursing home and pick up his damn beekeeping equipment, because his condition for us to put him in a nursing home is he got to take his gear with him.
Right.
He got to take his beekeeping gear with him. So he's like, when he passed away, he's like, here I am at the nursing home picking up my uncle. He's 110, picking up his damn beekeeping equipment. So,
it now belongs to you, I would imagine.
Oh, he's got all his gear. I bought all my own gear.
Did you?
Yeah, he's him and his wife. He's a ranch hand kind of, and I actually just talked to him because I hadn't talked to him in a while. His name's John, and he's also veteran. Same like me, and how I've got in touch with him. Some guy saw me wearing my shirt at our grocery store, and he's like, "Hey, my neighbor's a beekeeper. Let me give you his number, and I'll put you in touch with him." And once I got in touch with him, found out he was a veteran. It was all history. It's all history from there. He's been teaching me a lot of really cool ins and outs. Feeding him bananas, for a source of protein. Things like that. When to feed them, when to not feed them, things like that, all kinds of stuff, how to keep them from swarming.
Yeah.
It's endless knowledge with him.
Yeah. That's we've got that pretty much weighed off in terms of, signs of swarming, things like that. And, we had quite a bit of that this year as well ourselves, a lot of swarm cells. Yeah. But a lot of them just were play cups, just queen cups that were sat there and didn't, they weren't charged or anything. But we've had a couple of supersedure cells, and the one we found tonight was capped over, which was not good. But again, you know what I mean? We're in that state. We're like that now.
Well, humbled by the bees, man. You're humbled by like a superorganism insect, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. I mean, you're humbled by a insect that's about 3/8 of an inch long. It's not very big.
And I've been more bummed out than I have been when I've been on operations. You know what I mean? You go like that, what's going on? You know what I mean? Because they do throw insects.
It's the time again. It's the time that beekeepers put into the bees.
Yeah,
it really is. You can't get that back, man. You can't get years of work put back if you lose, say, 5 colonies.
That's one of the things. So I'll tell you what, I am behind the power curve is, mate. You got the merch, you got the old T-shirts. I've not even got that far yet.
Yeah, this was just something I did on the fly. And then this one I had made, I only paid, I thought I was going to pay more for that. I only ended up paying like $75 for that.
Mm.
And it's like 4x6, I think. So
Yeah.
it's 4 wide, 6 long. And then when I start doing my merchandising here, selling the honey, that'll be my banner for my setup.
Yeah.
And then I'll start selling my honey, because here where I live, I can actually go, I can sell my honey locally without it being FDA approved or anything like that. As long as it's like produced, as long as it's been slung in a food safe area, like a clean kitchen, a sanitized kitchen. So that those are the stipulations to it, you know, as long as I say, hey, this is an FDA approved, and I could put, hey, this is raw and filtered honey, not FDA approved, and people here will still buy it. They're like, I don't care, give it to me.
Yeah.
You know,
it's
just
I did a sort of a survey on Facebook for our local group here, because I got a local I've got a group here called Arbroath Bees by the Sea, which is our Facebook page. And put out a lost leader on that, say, well, if I can produce honey, so how many people would want that? And within the first, I would probably say 30 minutes, I had 200 replies, which was pretty good. You know, so the market's there, definitely. You know, for me, it's more of a sideline rather than a primary job. But you never know. Never say never.
I wouldn't mind taking it. I don't know if I'd go full commercial. My mentor, he wants to go full commercial. I'm like, let's, dude. I'll take it as far as anybody wants to. You know, I'll go small backyard. I'll go sideline. I'll go commercial. Hey, you want to do it? Dude, let's find a site. Let's get it. Let's get it rolling. You know, let's find a.
We've got an off-site apiary, which is about 3 miles up the road from us. Which one of the old farm hands, he says, you know, you can have a little bit of that land, put as many boxes you like on there. So that's our next move.
Yeah,
I'm not having any more than 2 here, because the neighbors would just freak out, you know what I mean? So
and that's Go ahead. I'm sorry. That's where I'm at. Like, if I could find some more properties out here where people are like, hey, I want bees on my property, you know, to get that tax exemption, or again, find veterans who have property out here. Hey, maybe if there's a veteran out here who's got 20 acres that says, hey, you know what? I got a back 5 right here. You guys can go ahead and put some beekeeping equipment on, and you got that's all yours.
Yeah.
Just give me the write-off, you know, put how many ever hives you want out there, and you have full access to it, you know, things like that. That is how an operation like a co-op like that I would like to see work, you know, where there's that trust formed between the group of veterans, where there's access to a property where the veterans only have to their equipment.
Yeah.
You know, I think that'd be
it's a good aspiration, you know, and I wish you the best of luck in the world to get that off and running, you know.
Yeah. I would like to see that happen over where you're at too, with your buddies, you know, maybe even if it's a sideline gig.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's the sort of thing I've thought about, but at the moment I'm working overseas, so I'm sort of cut between 2. So I'm coming back in 12 months, finishing, you know, where I'm working and coming back to the UK. So that's the case when I'm going to really start picking things up a bit, because I've been sitting on it. We've had our hives in the garden really as a ground zero to get used to the routines, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to learn the skill and let them teach us, which they've been doing pretty good.
Yeah.
You know,
they humble you, don't they?
They certainly keep me looking into books and things like that. But eventually, you know, apart from scientific papers, my aspiration is to have enough knowledge to be able to not look into books too many times, you know?
Yeah.
I'm not saying, you know, we can't learn everything, and there's always something different that comes up. But generally, the way it runs for beekeeping is pretty standard. The things that can happen, apart from periphery stuff, the real bad stuff, you know, that can occur. But,
like the foul brood, Varroa, stuff like that. It kind of hasn't really changed much over. No. It's just we're still learning a lot about it. Is all.
Yeah,
it's like the process of examining the bees going in, inspecting. That process hasn't really changed, but the behavior, the hybrids, you know, there's different diseases and stuff we got to look out for. You know.
Well, you got the ones in there. They are producing the strains that are actually hygienic and do hygienic things, you know, groom each other and you know, remove mites, leg biters as they call them. I think they were the Russian bees that do that. The ones
lick biters or
yeah. So
I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, if they could get self-groom with the Varroa mite stuff, I mean, it would save a lot of hassle. Yeah, it certainly is. You know,
well, because think of Think of how much money like Apivar's making, you know, off the chemicals and stuff they're selling to the industry.
Well, for 10 strips we get here. For here, it's about 30 pounds, 36 pounds, I think it was, which is
like
what,
$50. $50
$50 a year, just for 10 strips. So if you imagine, you know, if you go into a larger concern, you know, you only got to multiply that. Say if you had, depending on what configurations you've got. I mean, we've got 2 deeps we're going to keep as a winter configuration, so that's 6 strips straight away, and there's one in the new. So just one, you know, and it's not getting any cheaper, you know, not over here. Certainly, you can go to places, but there are certain things you need to get that you can't cut corners with. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, you guys can't get, what is it, the acid, what is it,
we can get oxalic acid.
The oxalic acid. Okay.
Yeah, we can get that. That's not an issue, but it is a certain type that we can have only, you know, because the government have legislated it so that we can only use a certain type.
Yeah. And it's the one that doesn't work that good, from what I understand.
Well, you know, I mean, it's a cheap thing to buy. You know, they're not expensive to get oxalic acid. You know, that'll be our December-January treatment. You know, and it's just to blast them once and for all to get them right down to the Varroa levels down to a really low count as much as we can. Yeah.
But, do you guys have a lot of Varroa? Do you guys deal with a lot of Varroa over there in the UK?
Yeah. In the UK, it's here. You know, it depends on, you know, whether you're proactive enough to intervene at certain times of the year. You know, what I have found is that initially, in the beginning part of the season, is that some people hit them then. You know, they might use oxalic acid or something like that. But then later, as they go on, then there's problems with some treatments you put on. Obviously, you can't have with honey supers on. You've probably got the same legislation somewhere, like use oxalic acid. You're not supposed to leave
the honey supers on you.
Yeah, because it could contaminate honey for human consumption, all that sort of stuff.
It makes perfect sense, though, too. I mean,
yeah, but you know, oxalic acid is in a lot of natural foods, isn't it? So things like broccoli, for an example, you know, it's all got oxalic acid. So you know, it doesn't do the bees any harm, but if you inhale it, it's not too good.
Yeah, that's why I got to go out the 3M mask. It's not too good for your lungs if you get it in your
See, I've even read some studies where good Varroa treatment is just with natural mushrooms. Like I've read there was this one study that I read where it's like you plant these mushrooms in your garden, your bees will go to them and take little parts and bring them back into the hive. And apparently it's supposed to help with Varroa, but a little bit more research will probably need done on that on my end. But it seemed quite interesting because you get bee mushroom feeders and everything that are apparently good against Varroa. So I was quite interested.
I'm always real interested in that kind of thing. There's plants out there that we probably have any knowledge about that the animal kingdom is already using. Like, we got this under control. Like you're saying with the mushrooms, you know, it will take research, but what if? You know, what if there's a plant out there that's symbiotic to the health of the hive of the bee? That is absolutely critical. And what if it's something as simple as a mushroom or a spore? You know, that the bee goes back, picks up those spores. There's something in those spores that is, I don't know, the scent, whatever the case is. Again, the science that would need to be done.
Primarily what they normally say is, I suppose, is that if your colony is strong, if it's big and strong, it's quite good at resisting disease. Not so much Varroa, because, you know, they are terrible things, you know. They have a really ancestral lifestyle they've got, like, you know. But eventually, I suppose it will get to a stage where the treatments won't work and we have to go that TF way. That might be the case, you know.
Find some sort of plant or something that's, you know, I don't know. You got a good point there.
Some interesting stuff out there, certainly from the scientific world. But, you know, science isn't always right. You know, they give you a good steer, but
how many colonies are you managing right now, Dave?
Well, we've only got 2.
Oh, okay.
We've only got 2. We're, like I said, we're right at the beginning of it. We've just been working on our ground zero to get used to the routines. As I said,
very cool.
So we're doing all right, you know. And they're strong, they're vibrant. We haven't lost any, but we did have a strange thing happen. You'll probably see one of my videos: the death of the 300.
Oh yeah.
right? It was 300. Yeah, death of the 300, we called it, because we found that there was a bunch of bees outside the hive that were initially just bearding. And then about 2 hours later, I think, wasn't it? They just died, all of them, and just dropped to the ground. we just did not know what was going on, so
overheated maybe.
Well, someone said to us, well, is it drones? I'm like, no, it's not drones. It's not drones, definitely not drones. It's just a mysterious 300 deaths. Just like that, boom, gone. And we were just like that.
I thought it was high dehydration, to be honest, because the day before we put the is it the lid? Not the lid, sorry. Well, the front panel back on to slow the intake of going back in and out. And next day there was just loads of bees on the front, and they were trying to get in and out. And I personally think they probably dehydrated because there was just a massive amount of them.
Yeah, it's hot. Okay. But we didn't know they were fairly crispy. Certainly when we were
overheated.
Yeah.
They overheat. Yeah. My mentor told me, like, when it gets hot, he was like, those bees will cook themselves, man. He said, you have to be worried about that here in Texas. He's like, when it's hot, he's like, you take that bar out. He's like, you leave that thing wide open.
Yeah.
And he said, especially when you're swarm trapping too, he said, go out and put toothpicks under the corners of each of your boxes. Right. Because he's like, you can catch a swarm, but he was like, there's no guarantee of keeping it. He's like, you could catch a swarm, but he's like, you got to lock them into the box. And he was like, what you do is, like, because swarms are so hot, he's like, they'll get in that box and overheat and they'll boogie out, man. It's like, so what you do is you create an extra vent, is you put a little gap between your bottom panel and the first box. That way there's a bigger flow of air through it.
Yeah, I've seen that method before used. I've seen that a few times. Yeah, it's difficult with swarms because obviously bringing in swarms as well, you got to make sure they ain't got disease.
Well, that's I was thinking, okay, if I caught a swarm, what would be the first thing? I would do a test right off them. I would kill 300 right then and there. Hey, I would do a Varroa test, shake them, and see what the Varroa load is coming in. Because if I'm coming in, if this is a Varroa bomb right here coming into my yard, do I want to keep that, or do I want to treat it, or how would I manage that situation? Catching a swarm like that. Those are all things I've thought. Like, okay, I catch a swarm in one of my boxes and I go out and test it, and it's got a high Varroa load. Then what? Bam! You got a high Varroa load on your first swarm in your yard. What are you going to do now?
That's a lot of questions that come up in my head. What now?
What now?
Absolutely.
What do I do now?
I got a 10-to-1 ratio here. What do I do? Like, realistically, I mean, it could happen. Like, what if I have a 50% ratio or a 20% ratio? Varroa load. That's crazy. That's crazy. And I would then be faced with a problem. I really would. Yeah. And that is a very high probability, catching a swarm, it coming in with the high Varroa load. And it could be somebody else's hives, because I have seen hives around here. And it wouldn't take much for...
Yeah, it takes me back to the other thing, some people just let the bees go, gone. That I suppose is one way of keeping moving their genetics around. It's a fair one.
The hives I see around here, I don't really see anybody working them.
No? So no sort of 7-day inspections and things like that. No, none of that stuff. They just maybe they're part of the TF community. We're just letting it go.
The fuck yeah. And my mentor told me, he's like, you want to be in your colonies every 7 to 10 days here in Texas. Yeah. He's about 10 days. That's what I'd say. Yeah. My class was telling me 21, but I told my mentor, he's like, nah, that's too long. He's like, the 21 days is the life cycle. He's like, that's pushing it a little bit, 21 days. But he was like 10 to 12, He's like 12 days is usually as far as you want to go as getting in your boxes, so.
Well, the thing is, you can get a super seizure in that time and you won't even know if you think.
That's exactly what he said. He's all they'll supersede in that 21 days. You won't even know it.
Yeah. And
he's all, you'll go out there, your queen will be gone.
Yeah. And then you wonder why your hive's going backwards. You're like that.
Yeah. Like, why are my bees upset too? Why is there no queen in here?
Yeah. We never go more than 16 days. Definitely not,
Okay.
And we don't, as a matter of course, because the amount of super seizures we keep experiencing in our well, especially the split at the moment. But I'm worried about the split. I am genuinely worried about it because I'm thinking, I'm going to have to steal more brood from the main hive to go in there to bolster them, because I think they're struggling a little bit.
That's part of beekeeping too, is like balancing out.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to sling them another couple of slabs of brew just to get them up to the strength I need them to be at. And we're at the end of August now, and I'm sort of thinking, well, we've only got really September for the feeding side of things, and then you got a 2-to-1, before they, you then get them up to the correct weight,
Yeah.
So we're looking at, it should be at least, well,
when your weather changes there, does it change real drastically? Do you have like that real drastic weather change? Okay, so it goes from like, you're going to have like 30 degrees to like 15 kind of thing.
Yeah.
Overnight. Okay.
Yeah, we get it all the time. And the joke is, in Scotland, you get 5 seasons in one day. That's how it happens with us.
Okay. Somebody said Graham's bees, a queenless colony will go laying worker in 21 days.
That's a fair one.
Yeah. I believe it. Yeah, definitely. You get those bees stressed out. Yeah. I mean, unless, if they didn't pull an egg in time. Yeah. If there's no eggs for the bees to pull, they'll go laying worker.
Yeah, there's certainly plenty of brood there. There are plenty of larvae as well. We did notice. So she has been laying, but as I say, we've not tracked her down.
Yeah.
So, but the super sieges definitely didn't look too good, when we saw them, because she was marked when she originally arrived, but she actually spent more than 2 days in the postage. And I was supposed to get them the next day, and I was concerned, because of the temperatures we had, that she could either die or go infertile.
Yeah.
So we had her in, got her introduced. The introduction went fine. We had 7 days, about 5-6 days of them being hopelessly queenless. Then we introduced her after knocking down the cells.
Nice. Okay.
And that went okay, no problems. But now later on, I'm always worried that she does get superseded, and then we're in trouble. We're in the hurt locker.
Yeah,
because
but you never. It's always a gamble with these things. You always take that. You could come out on the flip side, and everything might be a-okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably worrying unnecessarily, because she's done that to us before, gone hidden corners, but I need to make sure tomorrow, which I will do, because I won't be happy until,
back to the whole beekeeping and veterans and mental health. It really is. It's teaching you to manage your anxiety. It's like there's really nothing you can do about it, right?
No,
you just have to let them do what they're gonna do. Out the situation and just take it as it comes, man.
Yeah, absolutely. They certainly do that. There's nothing. I'm learning that pretty quick. You've got to be fairly chilled.
The whole, again, we were talking mental health and beekeeping in the beginning of the conversation, and it really is. It teaches you to be accepting of that, because you know what? Sometimes there's just things as veterans that we can't accept. There's things that we can't change.
No,
and we just have to sit back and we have to like, that's that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's one of the things where you can't control your environment like you used to be able to do before quite easily.
Yeah.
They just don't allow that. You know what I mean? They say, no chance. We'll keep you on.
This is our environment. You stay in yours. This is ours.
Yeah. We'll tell you when we need stuff doing. All right, just relax, fella.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm a firm believer in that. Again, going out there with the right attitude with your bees, that's going to dictate the way your bees act around you in your yard.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if you go out there hostile, they're not going to be happy with you.
So really, that's our discussion on what we've experienced, and it's been great speaking to you, Rich. I mean, it really.
Yeah,
is,
you too, man.
And,
you too. It's good to see you guys and your son. It's nice to meet you, man. Thanks for coming on,
it's
man.
Nice to meet you too, Rich.
I was talking to my friend earlier about this, how social media has made connecting with people around the world just absolutely incredible.
Oh yeah,
it really has. Just really through the pandemic, even a lot of people connected through the pandemic and formed a lot of really cool groups. Met a lot of different people around the world. And we're sharing a lot of good ideas. And it's people like you, Dave, and your son over there. You guys could start some sort of organization with beekeepers and veterans. Why not?
Yeah, certainly. It's definitely come onto the radar. And it's something I'm considering, but. Until I'm more sort of swept up with it. I think what I don't want to do is, like with anything, you don't want to give any bum information, but we all know that beekeeping's subjective, you know what I mean? Everybody does things differently. We understand that. But if you can, I suppose, get the fundamentals across the guys, like there are certain steps you do, and then the
Yeah.
rest of it is to your imagination, boys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You
It
have to
really is
try
like
and-
how,
yeah,
how you're balancing out your hives and everything right now with your splits and your worrying. It's like you got to use your imagination. Like, okay,
yeah.
how am I going to fix this?
It's exactly that. You know, it's like having another kid in the house. You know what I mean? You're thinking, oh my god, you know, dear.
It's
So,
like, but only instead of one, it's like 5,000.
yeah, that's the ones. Yeah. 5,000 high maintenance ladies sat out the back there.
Yeah, have that many, man. You better be prepared. But yeah, no, thanks for having me. Thanks for thanks
it's a
for the
pleasure, mate.
questions. And yeah, you too, man.
It was
I know
good
you're
to-
busy. I know you're busy, man. And
It was good to touch base with you, after all the time we've been corresponding, and not actually
Yeah.
spoken to each other properly. It was great you coming on, mate, and explaining all the stuff that's going on over there. And
and
if you got any links and stuff like that, I'll certainly throw it up on a few of my videos, so they can click into it.
I'm kind of hanging back on my channel right now just because I don't have any bees in my box yet, but I do need to throw a video up just to kind of give people an idea of why there's no bees in my box this year. Because again, I'm not rushing this process with the bees.
No,
I'm
absolutely.
really not trying to,
Yeah.
it's not supposed to give me anxiety. It's supposed to be a process that I enjoy, so I'll wait for the bees. I'll be patient with them. We're on their time always.
Yeah.
That's something I kind of had to learn the hard way a little bit with doing the inspections and sort of, because at some points I was going too quick. At some points I was being a bit too, right, let's get in the box, let's get it done. But it slowed it down and got a good pace now with a little bit of help from my big man here.
It's a very slow process. You don't go in there and you don't start pulling frames out and banging things around. No, your bees are going to get real mad real quick.
Oh, yeah.
But thanks for having me.
Hey, Rich, it's a pleasure, mate. If you ever, we'll be happy to come your side at some stage and talk if you want us to talk and waffle on for an hour or so. No problem.
Definitely, mate. For sure, man. And again, I'll put a video up on my channel. It's been busy with other stuff, but yeah. Any questions, man? I'm all ears. You guys have my email. Hit me up anytime, Dave. For sure, it's good to collaborate with you guys across the pond because we learn a lot from each other.
Oh yeah,
two-way street, mate. Two-way street.
Yeah.
So I'll look forward to seeing you getting up and running, and I'll keep in touch, mate. And you'll have to come on again and just have a chat about how you're getting on with that once you get it going.
Yeah, once I get some removals going with my mentor, I'm going to put those up and everything. It's just it's a process, not rushing it. I'll be patient.
All righty.
Be good, guys.
Take
care, man. See you from Texas. Bye, guys. Bye.